All right, as we continue on with the miraculous journey of Edward Tulane, Edward had his head cracked, was taken to a doll repair shop by Bryce, and the only way for Bryce to pay for him to be repaired would be to give Edward to the doll mender, whose name was Lucius Clark. So apparently, though, Bryce has been coming day after day after day, and finally the doll shop owner said, "You can't come back here anymore." And Edward, again, very sad that someone he loved had to go away. So, here's where we continue on. Technically, of course, he was not alone. Lucius Clark's shop was filled with dolls. Lady dolls and baby dolls, dolls with eyes that opened and closed, and dolls with painted-on eyes, dolls dressed as queens, and dolls wearing sailor suits. Edward had never cared for dolls. He found them annoying and self-centered, twittery and vain. His opinion was immediately reinforced by his first shelf mate, a china doll with green glass eyes and red lips and dark brown hair. She was wearing a green satin dress that fell to her knees. "What are you?" she said in a high-pitched voice when Edward was placed on the shelf next to her. "I am a rabbit," said Edward. The doll let out a small squeak. "You're in the wrong place," she said. "This is a shop for dolls, not rabbits." Edward said nothing. "Shoo!" said the doll. "I would love to shoo," said Edward, "but it is obvious that I cannot." After a long silence, the doll said, "I hope you don't think that anyone's going to buy you." Again, Edward said nothing. "The people who come in here want dolls, not rabbits. They want baby dolls, or elegant dolls, such as myself. Dolls with pretty dresses, dolls with eyes that opened and close." "I have no interest in being purchased," said Edward. The doll gasped. "You don't want somebody to buy you," she said. "You don't want to be owned by a little girl who loves you." Sarah Ruth, Abilene. Their names went through Edward's head like the notes of a sad, sweet song. "I have already loved," said Edward. "I have been loved by a girl named Abilene. I have been loved by a fisherman and his wife, and a hobo and his dog. I have been loved by a boy who played the harmonica, and by a girl who died." "Don't talk to me about love," he said. "I have known love." This impassioned speech shut up Edward's shelf-mate for a considerable amount of time. "Well," she said at last, "still, my point is that no one is going to buy you." They did not speak to each other again. The doll was sold 2 weeks later to a grandmother who was purchasing her for a grandchild. "Yes," she said to Lucius Clark, "that one right there, the one with the green dress. Oh, she is quite lovely." "Yes," said Lucius, "she is, isn't she?" And he plucked the doll from the shelf. Goodbye and good riddance, thought Edward. The spot next to the rabbit stayed vacant for some time. Day after day, the door to the shop opened and closed, letting in early morning sun or late afternoon light, lifting the heart of the dolls inside, all of them thinking, when the door swung wide, that this time, the person entering the shop would be the one who wanted them. Edward was the lone contrarian. He prided himself on not hoping, on not allowing his heart to lift inside of him. He prided himself on keeping his heart silent, immobile, closed tight. "I am done with hope," thought Edward Tulane. And then one day at dusk, right before he closed the shop, Lucius Clark placed another doll on the shelf next to Edward. In chapter 26. "There you are, my lady. Meet the rabbit doll," said Lucius. The doll mender walked away, turning out the lights one by one. In the gloom of the shop, Edward could see that the doll's head, like his, had been broken and repaired. Her face was, in fact, a web of cracks. She was wearing a baby bonnet.
"How do you do?" she said in a high, thin voice. "I am pleased to make your acquaintance."
"Hello," said Edward.
"Have you been here long?"
she asked. "Months and months," said Edward. "But I don't care. One place is the same as another to me."
"Oh, not for me," said the doll. "I've lived 100 years, and in that time I have been in places that were heavenly, and others that were horrid. After a time you learn that each place is different, and you become a different doll in each place, too. Quite different."
100 years? said Edward.
"I am old. The doll mender confirmed this. He said as he was mending me that I am at least that. At least 100 years old."
Edward thought about everything that had happened to him in his short life. What kind of adventure would you have if you were in the world for a century? The old doll said,
"I wonder who will come for me this time. Someone will come. Someone always comes. Who will it be?"
"I don't care if anyone comes for me," said Edward.
"But that's dreadful," said the old doll. "There's no point in going on if you feel that way. No point at all. You must be filled with expectancy. You must be awash in hope. You must wonder who will love you, whom you will love next."
"I'm done with being loved," Edward told her. "I'm done with loving. It's too painful."
"Pish," said the old doll. "Where's your courage?"
"Somewhere else, I guess," said Edward.
"You disappoint me," she said. "You disappoint me greatly. If you have no intention of loving or being loved, then the whole journey is pointless. You may as well leap from the shelf right now and let yourself shatter into 1,000,000 pieces. Get it over with. Get it all over with now."
"I would leap if I was able," said Edward.
"Shall I push you?" said the old doll.
"No, thank you," Edward said to her. "Not that you could," he muttered to himself.
"What's that?"
"Nothing," said Edward. The dark in the doll shop was now complete. The old doll and Edward sat on their shelf and stared straight ahead.
"You disappoint me,"
said the old doll. Her words made Edward think of Pellegrina, of warthogs and princesses, of listening and love and spells and curses. What if there was somebody waiting to love him? What if there was somebody whom he could love again? Was it possible? Edward felt his heart stir. "No," he told his heart, "not possible, not possible." In the morning, Lucius Clark came and unlocked the shop. "Good morning, my darlings," he called out to them. "Good morning, my lovelies." He pulled up the shades on the windows. He turned on the light over his stools. He switched the sign on the door to open. The first customer was a little girl with her father. "Are you looking for something special?" Lucius Clark said to them.
"Yes," said the girl. "I'm looking for a friend."
Her father put her on his shoulders, and they walked slowly around the shop. The girl studied each doll carefully. She looked Edward right in the eyes. She nodded at him. "Have you decided, Natalie?" her father asked.
"Yes," she said. "I want the one in the baby bonnet."
"Oh," said Lucius Clark, "you know that she is very old. She is an antique." "She needs me," said Natalie firmly. Next to Edward, the old doll let out a sigh. She seemed to sit up straighter. Lucius came and took her off the shelf and handed her to Natalie. And when they left, when the girl's father opened the door for his daughter and the old doll, a bright shaft of early morning light came flooding in, and Edward heard quite clearly, as if she were still sitting next to him, the old doll's voice.
"Open your heart," she said gently. "Someone will come. Someone will come for you. But first you must open your heart."
The door closed, the sunlight disappeared.
"Someone will come."
Edward's heart stirred. He thought, for the first time in a long time, of the house on Egypt Street, and of Abilene winding his watch, and then bending toward him and placing it on his left leg, saying, "I will come home to you." No, no, he told himself. Don't believe it. Don't let yourself believe it. But it was too late.
"Someone will come for you."
The china rabbit's heart had begun again to open. There he is, alone on the shelf, and you can kind of see his cracks in his head a little bit there. All right, and then tomorrow we have one more chapter left. So I look forward to finishing this book with you. It's a really good one.